Welcome to the Goose One channel. This is the first episode of a new series I'm going to be calling The Forgotten, where I talk about games, music, shows, whatever that I think has been unjustly forgotten for the passage of time and deserves more recognition. And in this first episode, I'll be handling a small band called Love Is Heavenly. Love Is Heavenly was a bedroom pop / emo revival duo hailing from the state of Florida, USA. Throughout their short lifetime of just over 2 years, they released 3 EPs, Not So Shallow, Lamprima, Erada, and But Just Know That I Did Love You With Everything I Possibly Had, along with a handful of singles. The story of Love Is Heavenly is elusive to say the least, having to be pieced together from a handful of liner notes and the lyrics of the songs themselves. I'll pepper what I did manage to find throughout parts of this video, but I won't go really into detail. Oh yeah, and before we start, I just want to say, I'll not be naming any names in this video, no last names, no first names, something of that nature, just out of basic courtesy. I don't want to dox these people for no reason. If I had to describe the sound of Love Is Heavenly in one word, it'd be melancholic. It's not exactly in the same way as Sylvia Plath's Melancholy. It's more hopeful at times, it's brighter, but it's never really happy. Love Is Heavenly's music is simple. Most songs don't have more than 4 chords, and I don't think any of them even have a bridge. And the lead singer's melodies are simple as well, but in a haunting way. Songs like You Don't Fit the Mold could be interpreted as happy if we were given just the lyrics, but their haunting melodies give everything an off-kilter feeling. All of this, along with the lo-fi production, comes together to create an atmosphere that feels nostalgic, but not necessarily in a happy way. The air in songs like West Coast, Best Coast, and Blindfolded feels regretful, yet hopeful. The sound is obviously inspired by lo-fi acts of the time like Flat Sound, Sam Ray's numerous projects, and the aforementioned Sylvia Plath, but it brings something to the table that none of those acts possess. Because, as much as I've been describing them as melancholic, the love between the two members of this two-piece brings a feeling that's absent in all of the other acts. Not So Shallow is the perfect encapsulation of this feeling. The EP's final track, Not It, is a representation of young love in its honeymoon stages with lyrics like
From day one I knew that you'd be the perfect fit.
and
With that stupid grin. And I miss that grin.
every song on the EP radiates that same energy. These two are in love and in love with making music together. The EP is born from a sincere and true love, not from breakups or sadness like most of the genre that this music belongs to. It's a super interesting contrast between the music and the feelings of the work. In between this EP and their next, they'd release an early demo of You Don't Fit the Mold, a song that would eventually become their most iconic to their entire fan base. To me, just to me really. And that iconic status came with their best EP to date. Lamprima Erada is what introduced me to the band, and looking at it in macro, it's also the midpoint in Love Is Heavenly's journey. This EP marks the point of their music where the melancholic label really starts to apply. Love is still blossoming if you listen to the lyrics. They still very much love each other, but the lyrics are starting to become less happy in general. Lines like,
Made me sick because I felt alone.
emit a very different feeling than anything on the first EP. The love itself isn't really starting to tear apart yet, but life is definitely getting to them. And then some time passes, and then we get to But Just Know That I Did Love You With Everything I Possibly Had. Now, there's no way I can actually confirm this, but I'm pretty sure this EP was written and recorded by just one member of the duo, which makes sense seeing as, well, their love seemingly isn't so heavenly anymore. One of the things that tips off this unfortunate fate is the usage of the piano. The first 2 tracks of the EP are practically requiems, an ode to something lost but not forgotten, played on an instrument that's been mostly associated with one specific member of the project. And then we get to the lyrics. After 50% of the EP is already done and dusted, we get our first sign of vocals, and the melancholic feeling of the project reaches a record low. We get lines like,
I hummed to myself that I hate myself, and in the end, I hate myself. I hope you're doing well.
signifying that things are not going the best, and that is definitely reflected in the sound of the record. The other vocalist's voice, if probably unintentionally, complements the empty feeling radiating from the situation. He doesn't manage to hit every single note perfectly, contributing to the melancholy along with the dour state of the chords underneath the vocals. But just know that I Did Love You felt like the come down after something you thought would last forever. The last words you spoke to someone you never saw again, and that you hate yourself for not thinking of more clearly. Only half a year later, the other half of Love is Heavenly would release an outro to the project. A retread of the first ever song released under the Love is Heavenly name, but with added lyrics. The song was released months later, and it shows. The feeling is still somber and dejected, but less angry, less spiteful than their last EP. If But Just Know That I Did Love You felt like the last word said with regret, outro feels like a final text message, a final goodbye. Something inside of you, the viewer, might be saying that this fate was inevitable. Teenage or young love never lasts forever. But as an avid outsider looking back at this band more than, 6 or 7 years later, this band felt more like a story than a set of real people. And as a story, it's one of my favorites I've experienced in a while. However, this is a story of real people, of course, and I don't want to portray this as anything else. These things that happened, I don't want to fictionalize them too much. The mood of Love is Heavenly as a whole is hard to pinpoint because it pretty much changed with every release, just like real people. This really happened, and I think that's what makes it so special. Sincerity is hard to come across these days, and it keeps becoming more so. And Love is Heavenly? They'll probably remain one of the most sincere acts out there, even if they're not around anymore. And I think that's all for now. Goose Swan signing out. I'll see you all later.